Good morning, everyone, and welcome to School for A Course in Miracles. My name is Bruce Rawles, and as always, we'd like to tip our hat virtually to Tim Wise and Lynn Corona for starting this wonderful school where we get to share our inspirations and helpful ideas about A Course in Miracles and anything that helps us stay mindfully aware that we have a real alternative in our mind every moment. That we call Holy Spirit or the correction. And so thank you all for being here. So we're just getting going. And yes, I think it's probably a really great place to start is today's workbook lesson, this being the 10th of January. My thoughts do not mean anything. So, Lisa, since you just arrived, would you like to read um, paragraphs 3 and 4 in lesson 10?
I will do that.
Thank you.
1 second.
Okay.
Go on.
So my ulterior motive to asking that times question, how long, is I'm on for tomorrow. But for today, it said 75 minutes, but it didn't say anything for tomorrow.
Tomorrow is 60.
Is it? Oh gosh.
Good. Because there's like it's like 20 paragraphs.
It's so confusing.
We'll just read and no questions tomorrow either. I'm telling you.
We'll get the logistics sorted. We can take that offline.
Yeah. I like 75 to 90 myself.
I think the 90 is what we always used to have,
Yeah.
but I think they were going to do the immersion, but I don't think they are now. But anyway, okay, 3 and 4, right?
Yes, please.
And the lesson today is my thoughts do not mean anything. This aspect of the correction process began with the idea that the thoughts of which you are aware are meaningless, outside rather than within, and then stressed their past rather than their present status. Now we are emphasizing that the presence of these thoughts means that you are not thinking. This is merely another way of repeating our earlier statement that your mind is really a blank. To recognize this is to recognize nothingness when you think you see it. As such, it is the prerequisite for vision. Close your eyes for these exercises and introduce them by repeating the idea for today quite slowly to yourself, then add, "This idea will help to release me from all that I now believe." The exercises consist, as before, in searching your mind for all the thoughts that are available to you, without selection or judgment. Try to avoid classification of any kind. In fact, if you find it helpful to do so, you might imagine that you were watching an oddly assorted procession going by, which has little, if any, personal meaning to you. As each one crosses your mind, say, "My thought about blank does not mean anything. My thought about blank does not mean anything."
Okay. So why don't we just sit for a moment and apply that to whatever thoughts we brought with us this morning, and give it a few seconds and just do a little mental house cleaning. Thanks. Okay, gently come back, and we'll let the robotic vacuum in our mind clean up the rest while we go to the class. How's that sound? Well, today we have an interesting section, as they all are. This is in the clarification of terms in the manual. It's the first topic in the clarification section, mind spirit. Let's see. Does anyone happen to have that page handy? I can see if I can get
79.
Thank you. All together now. Stereophonics, 79. Okay. And I also have Ken's commentary on it. He didn't say a lot about it, but there's what he did say is, as always, is wonderful. So I'm going to have that at the ready. Let's see. Chris, would you like to read the first paragraph of mind dash spirit?
Sure.
Okay.
I thought he had a lot to say about it. It's 3 pages worth anyway.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I guess that's usually it's like 3 pages to one. So maybe not so much this time. Mind spirit, first paragraph, and clarification of terms. Are we still not? Oh, we are recording.
Yeah.
Okay. You hear that, Vicky? You got to watch your language.
We just have to watch our mind. If we can do that, the rest of it will take care of itself, right?
My language does not mean anything. The term mind, little m, the term mind is used to represent the activating agent of spirit, supplying its creative energy. When the term is capitalized, it refers to God or Christ, i.e., the mind of God or the mind of Christ. Spirit is the thought of God, which he created like himself. The unified spirit is God's one Son, or Christ. No comment.
Okay. Well, if you have no comment, I'll read some of Ken's. How's that? Because they're all always good. Um, before the opening comment is the first section deals with mind and spirit, and thus Jesus speaks of the wrong, right, and one minds. So there's the three parts of our mind. We've got the ego, the Holy Spirit, and the decision maker is implied, and then the one mind is really above the line in Ken's chart. That's the pure non-dual identity that we all share. That's beyond the scope of the course. That is what we would call our creator, eternal, all those adjectives that attempt to uh, direct us to that non-dual, eternally unchanging, unchangeable, uh, infinitely peaceful awareness that we thought we left somehow. Yeah, thanks. So Ken continues with the first commentary in the first two sentences. We will see in this section that Jesus is somewhat inconsistent in his use of words, illustrative of his explanation in the introduction. He uses words here slightly different from their use in the course itself, thus teaching us to pay attention to the content, not the form. As always, the content, not the form. In describing mind as the activating agent of spirit, Jesus implies a difference between the two terms. This, of course, is not so in heaven, where we are spirit and mind, the two being synonymous. To get a sense of Jesus' meaning here, think of a fountain. The mind is the engine that drives the fountain, and spirit is the water that flows through it. Yet these are but symbols for something beyond comprehension in our separated state. So, any other comments on that first paragraph?
Well, it kind of reminds me of when you say something and somebody didn't said, "Well, that's the wrong word for it," and the comment is, um, "Listen to what I mean, not what I said. Listen to what I mean, not what I said." I don't think I quite have that right, but uh, you misspeak, is use the wrong word, which would be form, but you have a meaning that's there, regardless, irregardless, which is not a word either, but of what I said. You know what I meant, yeah.
Yeah. Once again, it's content, not form. Not get hung up on the words, right? Yeah.
Another one is don't confuse the issue with the facts.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like the word spirit with the capital S, spirit. And to me, that it belongs there along our placeholder words that are above the line in Ken's chart, which I don't have behind me today, but you know where it's right at the top of the chart, right? The pure non-dual awareness that is beyond the scope of the course and yet inexorably leading us back to that awareness. Let's see, Vicky, would you like to read the second paragraph? And if you have Ken's commentary, you could read that too, or maybe someone else.
I
If
do
you don't.
have Ken's commentary, and
Okay, great, great.
I agree. Has said a lot about this. Paragraph 2,
Mhm.
lights, action. In this world, because the mind is split, the sons of God appear to be separate, nor do their minds seem to be joined. Understatement of 2026. In this illusory state, the concept of an individual mind seems to be meaningful. It is therefore described in the Course as if it has two parts, spirit and ego.
Thank you.
Important, not important, significant description.
Yeah. Do you want to read
And
Ken's comments?
sure, I think I can. Yeah.
Thank you. It's on page 207, starting at the bottom of the page in the left column.
All right. And on sentences 1 through 3, Ken comments, we appear to be different and separate, which is what our bodies were designed to demonstrate. Therefore, because we think we are individuals, Jesus addresses us as if we have individual minds. This is not the truth, he is telling us, but he will use words that are appropriate for our experience. And God bless that he does, because otherwise we would never understand this.
Yep, we need to be met where we're at, huh?
Yep. And I appreciate that about my father. And then about sentence 4, he comments, Jesus now uses spirit differently as a synonym. Oh, maybe I'll read that line again. It is therefore described in the Course as if it has two parts, spirit and ego. Jesus now uses spirit differently as a synonym for the right mind and ego for the wrong mind. This interchange of meaning illustrates the folly of attempting to analyze the precise meanings of those words and terms. Thus, at the end of the first paragraph, Jesus speaks of the unified spirit, which is Christ, and here, and only here, spirit again is equated with the right mind.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think we could easily just say lowercase spirit in this context would be equivalent to Holy Spirit or that corrective principle, right?
Oh, I didn't even notice that it was a small s. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And to me, what Ken is doing is he so often does is underscoring the idea that we have to get past the words. We can, the words become helpful as training wheels to get our mind, focused on wanting to see the sameness and to generalize and to learn that every seemingly different aspect of the ego mind is really the same, and every seemingly different separate aspect of our right mind is really the same, and we're all in the same boat. And in one of Ken's talks the other day, he oftentimes talks about ego, Holy Spirit, and the decision makers, the three parts of the mind. But he also mentioned in this other talk that I was listening to, the one mind, which is, again, above the line in that chart, which is the pure non-dual, which is really, the Course doesn't really deal much with that. This is one of the sections where it does, but that's kind of the implied, um, really the foundation, or really the backdrop against which all our work in undoing the ego is said, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, we're seeing, a handful of faces on a Zoom screen, and we think that they're separate people unless we are paying attention to realize, well, wait a minute, we're just one thing. We're having a very vivid dream. We've got couches with uh, decorative trees and we've got flowers and woods and just really cool Buddha-like painting and other uh, walls and cork boards and hats floating in a thunderous lightning filled sky, and then a ski slope probably somewhere in the Alps, I'm guessing. But and then these people that are hanging out in them. But what if it's just, one thing, and we're dreaming that we're all these separate things, and so we know we've got some correction to do until we default to seeing us all as one, rather than saying, oh yeah, that's right, I could see the oneness, I could see the sameness to get to the oneness. Yeah. Any more
Yeah,
thoughts on
and
that? Oh, go ahead, Vicky.
no, just always the reminder all the way through the course that we have a wrong mind and a right mind and a decision maker. Like that's just so key
It's huge, isn't it?
for everything we're learning.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the first we can accept about the sameness of one another,
Yep.
sameness that we share beyond the body. Yep.
Sameness is huge, isn't it? Yeah. Stephen, are you able to read today? I know you're off camera at the moment, but I'm just going across the screen. And if you are, you're on mute. Yeah.
Yes, where are we, please?
Paragraph 3 in Mind Spirit in the clarification of terms, page 79.
Oh, I was in the wrong place. That's why I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay. Mind dash
Uh,
spirit.
Mind dash spirit, clarification of terms.
That's it. You got it.
Spirit is the part that is still in contact with God through the Holy Spirit, who abides in this part but sees the other part as well. The term soul is not used except in direct biblical quotations because of its highly controversial nature. It would, however, be an equivalent of spirit, with the understanding that being of God, it is eternal and was never born. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have Ken's commentary with you by chance?
I have it. It's about 12 steps from here in the bookcase.
Okay.
So reading it right now would take about, I don't know, 90 seconds. So y'all go ahead on, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have the journey through the manual handy? Lisa.
You like me to read that?
Sure. Would you like to read Ken's commentary on
Yeah.
those paragraphs?
So for paragraph 3, sentence 1, spirit is the part, the right mind, that is still in contact with God through the Holy Spirit, who abides in this part, the right mind, but sees the other part, the wrong mind, as well.
Mhm.
And then Ken says it would be more I like how we put those little things in there to,
In the brackets, yeah.
yeah.
That helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, it would be more technically correct to say that the reflection or memory of spirit is in the right mind, which is true.
Yeah.
And then for sentence 2, the term soul is not used except in direct biblical quotations because of its highly controversial nature. Then Ken
Ooh.
says, this is also not an absolutely accurate statement. The word soul is not used very often, but when it is used in the text, it almost always is in a biblical quotation. The devil asking us to sell our soul to him, for instance. However, there are a couple of places where Jesus uses the word to talk about the religious notion of the soul continuing on after death. In this context, soul is equated with the individual mind. Again, on the form level, this is not a technically and perfectly consistent text at all, yet it is consistent in content. Jesus' point is that he does not want to use the word soul, for it may foster theological controversy, a point he made in the introduction. In New Age circles, soul means one thing, in Christian theology, another, in Judaism, still another. In A Course in Miracles, soul can be understood as the equivalent of spirit, our nature as Christ. And then, should I continue or do we
Sure,
want?
sure. Why don't
Yeah.
you
Okay, so I'll go
finish
to
the third
3,
sentence? Yeah.
and then he says, the Course says, soul, would, however, be an equivalent of spirit, with the understanding that, being of God, it is eternal and was never born. And then Ken says, Jesus returns to soul as unified spirit, while just before he equated spirit with the right mind, which contains the memory of our reality as spirit. So, yeah, he kind of a floating word.
Yeah, and I think that again that the one of the take-home lessons when reading the course is, like Ken says, to read it like an epic poem, and to not get too hung
Yeah.
up on the words and use them merely as guideposts or training wheels to train our mind to think along the lines that the course suggests, and not get too hung up on being technically correct, but because it's he uses very loose poetic language,
Exactly.
and
But he,
the context is really helpful, and that's why I think those
but
brackets
in
are
the
there.
end, he does
Yeah,
say we could use soul as an equivalent of
yeah,
spirit, with the
exactly.
understanding that being of God, it is eternal and was never born. That part, that
Bingo. Yeah,
definition of
that's a
spirit. Yeah.
helpful caveat, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Myra, would you like to read the fourth paragraph? And if you have Ken's commentary, read
Can
that
I
as
just
well.
say something about that last
Oh,
one?
of course, of course. Yeah, sure, Audrey.
I think it's pretty rich that Jesus's point is that he does not want to use the word soul, for it may foster theological controversy. Yet he completely confuses people with forgiveness, atonement, salvation. I
And
mean,
using a whole different way of using
Does,
it. Yeah.
it's just
doesn't it seem
Uh,
like it could be one of those things of this sorting out of confusion is left to the student as an exercise, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
Because we need to go through it and show to with Holy Spirit's help sort out what it really means for us in order to really integrate it and make it more than just a nice theoretical exercise. Yeah, really truly embody it. Yeah, but not in a body, in our mind. Uh, so,
Yeah.
anything else on it before we go?
Well, actually, I do have something
Oh,
else.
okay, okay. Go for it. Go for it.
I have finally gotten to a place where I've understood that words are helpful, but they can become a tool of resistance
Oh,
when I try to make everything fit and then I struggle if they don't. So that's been really helpful. Having said that, a couple of you said today that the mind has three parts: the decision maker, the ego, and the Holy Spirit.
mhm.
Now, I don't understand that the decision maker can ever just be by itself. It's
No,
either
no.
with the Holy, so it's really just two parts. The
Yeah, yeah,
decision maker
yeah.
with the Holy Spirit.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's actually a really helpful clarification because yeah,
Yeah.
without the two parts, there's nothing for the decision maker to choose between.
It
And of
can't
course,
be neither and it can't be both.
right. Yeah, it's always it's a Boolean or operator. Uh,
That pleases my black and white little mind.
an exclusive or operator. Yeah, yeah.
only two
It's
can be active at a time.
right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, but it's easy to get hung up on the technicalities, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And that's
Stephen.
resistance.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Stephen.
Wapnick says on one of his CDs that the decision maker is actually empty.
Yeah.
However you want to figure that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, because I mean it really that metaphor, that symbol goes away when we've chosen Holy Spirit consistently and completed the correction that the Holy Spirit has us complete. Yep. Okay. So now, Myra, would you like to read four?
Yeah,
And
but regarding all the comments, I was just trying to find something in Ken's other little book. I
oh, okay.
can't find it exactly. We had spoken about it last week in the Happy Learners that
Yeah.
when Ken said that with the use of words, with teaching and demonstrating, giving and receiving, all being one, and that
Yeah.
we need the words, and so we need the words to communicate, but to always go above them and never take them seriously.
Bingo. Yeah,
We
beautifully
spoke
said.
about that this
Yeah.
week. I can't
Yep.
find the right page. Okay.
Oh, you just said it beautifully.
Okay. Paraphrasing
You're ch
Ken a little
you're
bit there.
channeling Ken wonderfully. Yeah.
Uh, okay. Paragraph. I have the book, so
Okay, great. Thanks.
the other part of the mind is entirely illusory and makes only illusions. Spirit retains the potential for creating, but its will, which is God's, seems to be imprisoned while the mind is not unified. creation continues unabated because that is the will of God. This will is always unified and therefore has no meaning in this world. It has no opposite and no degrees. Okay, so he's going back and forth here with the different levels, and of course Ken is going to straighten that out for us.
Yes.
The first sentence, that the other part of the mind is entirely illusory and makes only illusions. Ken says, Jesus refers to the ego thought system. Here, in the clarification of terms, he does not go into any detail about that thought system, which is amply covered in the text. Sentence 2, he does in two parts. Spirit retains the potential for creating, ... Since true spirit is always creating, Jesus is again referring to the right mind, because he speaks of spirit having the potential, in italics, having the potential for creating. Our mind has this potential while we sleep, for we are not in touch with the mind's power to create. Well, in my own words also that, okay, we always have the power to create, but while we're sleeping, we're still not really creating, while we're still dreaming of the illusory mind, the mind that only makes illusions. We have forgotten that we have that potential to create. But it's always there, it never went away. And the second part of that sentence, but its will, the spirit's, which is God's, seems to be imprisoned while the mind is not unified. The key word here is seems. It seems that our true self as spirit is imprisoned. In reality, nothing has happened. He says that a lot. It's a good reminder, huh?
Very nicely. Yeah. And
And
spirit
then,
well, I was just going to say, spirit isn't the least bit upset or compromised by anything we do in our dreams. Capital S spirit, which is,
I always refer to that one sentence, nothing real has happened.
yeah.
And the first sentence was, my mind just went blank. I have a blank mind.
It's
Nothing real
working. It's
can be
working.
threatened.
Those early
Nothing real
workbook
can be
lessons are
threatened.
working.
It came
Yay.
back. That what you just said, that refers to that nothing real can be threatened. So nothing here in the dream has any influence at all. Whatever we try to do with ourselves here to achieve something, to be spiritual, we don't have to do any of that at all. Okay. The rest of paragraph 4, creation continues unabated because that is the will of God. This will is always unified and therefore has no meaning in this world. It has no opposite and no degrees. Very clear statement. And again says, here's a lot to say about this. Okay. We think heaven and Christ have changed, or that we have destroyed them. Yet, our insane dreams have had no effect on changeless reality. That's what we were just saying. No effect on changeless reality. It is because this is a world of change that we know the will of creation is not present here, because everything changes here and creation is changeless. The will of God, God and Christ, is totally unified, with no opposites or middle ground between them. Being non-dualistic, God's will has no consciousness, differentiation, or distinction, and therefore has no meaning in our dualistic universe. Very good definite statement also about consciousness, because there are many forms of spirituality that use consciousness as a divine word. Sometimes there are even course teachers that use consciousness as something divine.
Mm-hmm.
The right mind, however, contains the memory of this oneness and the unified nature of the sonship. In this world, Unity is grasped by way of its reflection, our joint purpose of forgiveness. At the end of the text we read, "For we are one in purpose, and the end of hell is near." Hell is having separate purposes, and its ends are awakening from the dream when we recognize our shared purpose. Yet in heaven, there can be no separate, can be no shared purpose, since there is only the oneness of Christ.
Mhm.
There's nothing divided, there's nothing shared, there's just one. Just that number one that's so difficult for our brains to grasp. Number one. It's the
Mhm.
most difficult number there is. Okay.
The,
Thank you, Ken.
the
Yeah.
simplest and the most difficult, yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you, Mara. Anything else on that? No? Okay. I was thinking about the shared purpose and then the separate purpose of the ego and how hellish that is. And I think it's well, there's several places in the course where it talks about, that when we have conflicting goals, I think this even in the workbook several places, the frustration of having conflicting goals, and that, a lot of times we want to do one thing and we want to do something else that conflicts with it, and it actually cancels out. And so it's like, no wonder we get frustrated and annoyed and irritated with ourselves, and then we project that onto the world and we think, well, that's because these other people or these other such circumstances are making these demands on me, and yada yada yada. And but it's really, we've chosen the thought system of conflict, the thought system of war or murder, or basically taking what seems to be and dividing it and making it, pitting it against itself, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? Yeah. I thought what we could do after we're done with this section is read another part in the chapter 12 that I think really gets into the application of these now, kind of lofty theoretical ideas. Meanwhile, we got a couple more paragraphs to read. Three more, actually. Um, let's see. Audrey, would you like to read paragraph 5 and then Ken's comments if
Yes.
you have them?
Yes, I have them. Okay.
Great, great.
Um, and I'll do it as he does.
Okay.
So the mind can be right or wrong depending on the voice to which it listens. And here Ken says Jesus is talking about the decision maker without naming it specifically. The it, depending on the voice to which it listens, is the decision-making part of the mind that can listen to the ego or the Holy Spirit. This reflects what Jesus means by structural issues. When we speak of the split mind having the voice of the ego, the voice of the Holy Spirit, wow, he anticipated my comment. When we speak of the split mind having the voice of the ego, the voice of the Holy Spirit, and a part that chooses, we refer to a structure. Yet this is of a split mind that does not exist. These then are mere symbols, meant to approximate our experience in the world of hearing, quote unquote, two voices or thought systems. I can release this grievance and be happy, or hold on to it and be miserable, and I am aware of both possibilities. And I can release the need to understand minutely and be happy, or focus on
Bingo.
the experience
Yeah, yeah.
and be, you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't it seem like that's a reflection of trust when we realize, well, I can actually look at this and not make a big deal about it, and just kind of go with the flow of letting Holy Spirit show me that I don't have to choose the conflict.
It
Like,
is trust. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
surrender.
yeah.
It is surrender. And it says a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is necessary. And
Mhm.
that's, I think, what you're talking about, that
Yeah, yeah,
we're never going to agree on all the words and their meanings. It's the experience, that holy instant that we are getting at.
yeah,
These are the pointers to that experience.
exactly.
Okay, so back to the text. Right-mindedness listens to the Holy Spirit, forgives the world, and through Christ's vision sees the real world in its place. The real world is this is Ken. The real world is referred to quite often in the clarification of terms, but it is not one of the terms to be clarified. We see here, that's why we need your book, Bruce. We see here the equation of right-mindedness with Christ's vision, forgiveness, the Holy Spirit, and the real world, different ways of expressing the atonement. So those are the same.
Mhm.
And then back,
Generalizing, right?
yes,
Applying generalization to our language so that we can see the sameness. Yeah.
exactly. And then back to the text. This is the final vision, right-mindedness, the last perception, the condition in which God takes the final step himself. Here, time and illusions end together. And then Ken says, the end of learning is to forgive. The end of learning to forgive is that we awaken from our sleep. We recognize that everything here is a dream, governed by the principles of separate interests, one or the other. Someone wins, another loses. Outside the dream, we know we are one and no longer part of the ego's world. There may be a figure or body that people identify as us, but we remain aware that this self is not who we are. Such awareness is the vision of the real world, the final vision, in which time and illusions are one. In fact, the world of time and space is the projection into form of the fundamental illusion that we are separate from God. The dream of separation began as a thought and never ceases to be one, a tiny mad idea. Yet we believe it can be projected to make a world. All this, however, gently disappears when we forgive and release our illusions of specialness. What remains is the memory of God. On the other hand, paragraph 6,
Drum roll cliffhanger for paragraph 6. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Any other additions you'd like to make on that, Audrey? Yeah,
thank
Ken
you.
does says it rather well, doesn't he? Yeah. Which is why I thought, since he wasn't extra verbose, we could just go through everything he says on this section today. And I think we'll still have time left over for some other good stuff. Yeah. The final step is kind of, it's like it's good to keep that light at the end of the tunnel in mind while we're seemingly moving toward it within our dream of change and transformation. And yet we're already there. Uh, um, but yeah, but just remembering that we're dreaming, I think, is really the process, isn't it? Yeah, and being gentle when see how ridiculous.
Bruce, you're
Yep.
starting to break up a little bit.
Let's see. Really? Okay. How
A
about
little
now?
bit.
Sounds good to me.
You,
Little? Okay. Well, I'll have someone else read for a while. Maybe it'll
maybe it's
clean
me.
itself up. Marissa, would you like? Oh, might be me. Okay. Uh, Marissa, would you like to read paragraph 6 in Ken's commentary? And you're on mute
Sure, I
still.
can do
There you
that.
go. Thank you.
Paragraph 6. On the other hand, as Audrey was saying, wrong-mindedness listens to the ego and makes illusions, perceiving sin and justifying anger, and seeing guilt, disease, and death as real. Ken says, this is the world we love because we cherish the thought system of sin, guilt, fear, punishment, and death that gave rise to it, the foundation of our individual existence. And then Jesus says, both this world and the real world are illusions because right-mindedness merely overlooks or forgives what never happened. And Ken says, later on, Jesus describes forgiveness as a kind of happy fiction, the final illusion, the culminating happy dream. It is an illusion, yet is happy because it leads beyond all misery and pain, which were born of our guilt. To say we forgive what never happened is another way of saying what the Course teaches. We forgive our brothers for what they have not done. They have done nothing to us, for they have not taken us from heaven, nor seized the peace of God from our minds. God's love and peace are totally present within us, regardless of what others have or have not done. Moreover, as we forgive them their sins, we forgive ourselves for the same accusation we had projected. Jesus says, therefore, it, which is right-mindedness, is not the one-mindedness of Christ's mind, whose will is one with God's. Ken says, this completes the structure of the mind. The split mind consists of wrong and right-mindedness and an implicit decision maker that chooses between them, while the Christ mind is one-mindedness, the state of wholly undifferentiated and unified being. Yeah, it kind of speaks for itself. Thank you. Yeah, he's going through the structure of the mind, which is it's good to know.
Yep.
It helps us on our journey to realize where we're coming from.
The non-duality that the course is based on is the one-mindedness, the creator, the perfect oneness, the pure awareness of that nothing happened, and not even the idea of something could happen could reside in that, right?
Yeah.
And then now we've got everything else that we're working with to get our minds back to that state where they never left, paradoxically. Let's see, 7. Maya, would you like to read paragraph 7? And do you have Ken's commentary
I do.
as well?
Yes,
Great, perfect.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'll just read straight the commentary the way that Marissa and Audrey did. Yeah. Okay. In this world, the only remaining freedom is the freedom of choice, always between two choices or two voices. A Course in Miracles revolves around this key concept of our power of decision. Again, without using the term, Jesus is speaking of the mind's decision maker, the blue dot, that chooses between the ego and the Holy Spirit. And sentence 2, will is not involved in perception at any level and has nothing to do with choice. Ken's comment, true or unified spirit is not involved in perception at all, nor is God. In heaven, there is nothing to choose between or among. Sentences 3 through 6. Consciousness is the receptive mechanism, receiving messages from above or below, from the Holy Spirit or the ego. And I will clarify, above meaning the Holy Spirit, yeah? And below meaning the ego. So sometimes our metaphysical chart looks like it's horizontal, right and left, but really it's vertical.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit is above. Yeah. Consciousness has levels and awareness can shift quite dramatically, but it cannot transcend the perceptual realm, the realm of dream figures. At its highest, it becomes aware of the real world and can be trained to do so increasingly. Yet the very fact that it has levels and can be trained demonstrates that it cannot reach knowledge. Knowledge is in heaven. It's beyond us. It's way vertical. I mean, if there was a distance, which there isn't. We are aware that we go back and forth between insanity and sanity, choosing the lower level of the wrong mind or the higher level of the right mind. Both levels are part of the perceptual world, which means they are illusory. They don't exist. As the atonement is accepted, that the separation never happened, the right mind, having corrected the wrong mind, both disappear, as does the decision maker, for there is nothing left to choose between. Isn't that wonderful? So the decision maker is out of work.
An employment office like Santa on December 26th, right?
Absolutely. Or the Halloween store that Marissa showed us, that is just in shambles and pretty much empty. There is nothing left to choose between. We remain but an instant longer in the real world before God reaches down and lifts us back into himself. The one-mindedness of Christ we never truly left. This attainment of the real world is the ultimate goal of A Course in Miracles, and the workbook specifically trains our minds to choose for the Holy Spirit, to choose for the Holy Spirit, and to choose against the ego. The remainder of the clarification of terms deals with the process of forgiveness, which awakens us to the real world and then to knowledge. So, preview of coming attraction, folks. We're going to start focusing on forgiveness now.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, good stuff. Anything else, Maya, on that, or anyone else?
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, I kind of figured that this might not take the entire hour, even with all of Ken's commentary, which wasn't, like I say, too verbose. In that last part,
Chris has
oh,
some.
Chris, thank you.
Thanks. This line, second to last paragraph of the last sentence, we remain but an instant longer in the real world before God reaches down and lifts us back unto himself. The one-mindedness of Christ we never truly left. It makes me think of how a lot of us, probably myself included, think of this as the body dying when we think of maybe more of a Christian interpretation of death is when the soul goes up to heaven, God takes us back. And I believe the Course in Miracles would say when we check out here, we're taking our current mindset with us, or however we're wherever we are. It doesn't change really. And as much as I'd like that to be true, no matter where I am when I leave this body, it sure would be nice if I could just go to heaven and be done with all this. But I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, and if anybody will watch the movie Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension, his little slogan is, "No matter where you go, there you are."
Yeah.
Which I think is really kind of what you're just kind of talking about, is that we don't get instant promotions or demotions just by going into the dream or out of the dream of a body. And that section on reincarnation that's also in the manual, basically, I think spells that out pretty clearly. It's like, that being in or out of a body, couldn't possibly have anything to do with, what it's an independent variable, basically. I'm paraphrasing, with our
I
mind.
think I'm just neurotic enough to want to know which when I do leave my body, is that good enough? Am I out of here, or am I coming back again? It's kind of
Well,
like, how will I know? How will I know?
I think the consistent piece is the criteria, right? We could describe it a lot of different ways, but that
Yeah.
I think is really, the top of the ladder is when we're choosing Holy Spirit consistently, and then the need, obviously, for the ego goes away, or our imagined need, which is a pretty crazy need, and then the decision maker goes away, and then the Holy Spirit goes away, because that's really a correction, and then we're just back to the one mind, which is above the line. But that's, beyond our pay grade at the moment. which is
Yeah.
fine, but it's good to get, like Ken says, never get too far from the metaphysics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think just remembering that we're dreaming, and like Myra says, God first, or a nod to God. If I can remember to do that more and more frequently, I'm optimizing my trajectory and shortening the path and decreasing the time back to that within my dream of space and time, metaphorically, back to that perfect oneness. Yeah. Yeah. So any other comments on that section? I did have, since you were mentioning the verticality and the horizontalness, uh, just a nerdy aside is it's when you're talking about the Holy Spirit being above the ego. And if you've ever worked on a website and seen it on a laptop or a large monitor, and then you go to a phone, a tablet or a phone, and a lot of times the little sidebar drops down below the main content area. And I was thinking, well, that was kind of interesting metaphor, because the content of the Holy Spirit is really what we're going for, and the sidebar is usually just kind of things that are peripheral to, but sometimes related, but oftentimes they can be a distraction from the content. And I think the ego is the ultimate distraction. So when we really kind of zoom in and focus in like a tablet or a phone, that sidebar drops down, and then we get the vertical orientation. And really, the vertical orientation is really our way out of the dream, by going through the ego with the Holy Spirit, really going from the world, bringing the projection of the world back into the ego mind with the Holy Spirit, and then going out of the ego through the decision maker to the Holy Spirit's correction, and then ultimately beyond that whole stack of stuff, which is a web term referred to the stack of all the little pieces that make up a web page. So anyway, but that's kind of what we're doing, is we're saying all those little horizontal choices that seem to be different, and the ego says, oh, look at that one, look, oh, you haven't tried that, how about this permutation, you haven't tried that combination of dream things, maybe that'll work to make you happy in the world. Just like, oh, we're starting to learn to generalize that maybe all the permutations are really the same, and then we go vertical. Thanks. I thought what would be nice to do, and I came across this the other day, and just one sentence I want to read that I think fits nicely with what we just read is you don't have to go there. I'll just read the quote. Chapter 12, Section 7, Paragraph 9, first sentence. The power of decision is your one remaining freedom as a prisoner of this world. So that's it. I think that summarizes, not only what we think we've done, but also how to get out of what we think we've done. And so along those lines, I thought it would be helpful to go back to, in the text, chapter 4, section 2, which is on page 56 in the text. It's the ego and false autonomy, and go through that. Because I think now we got the theory, now we get the lab assignment. So since we've got, oh gosh, either 15 minutes or a half an hour, depending on how long we go. Time to at least get into this a bit. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. I went through it the other day and I was like, wow, I needed to read this again. Stephen.
Yes, that sentence you just read, could you read it one more time, please?
Oh, of course, of course.
Thank you.
The power of decision is your one remaining freedom as a prisoner of this world.
Excellent.
Yeah, isn't that a great sentence?
Yeah, but he makes it into a formula in lesson 138. It says the same thing, but it gives the other three steps.
Yeah.
Heaven is the decision I must make. I make it now, and I will not change my mind, and it's the only thing I want.
Yeah.
Jesus does this throughout the course, where he says something earlier, and then he gives it to us more specifically as he goes along. It's part of the way that he's training us and giving it. But more than that, it's more like guidance and instruction, from your favorite professor anywhere. Yes, we have to make the decision. A person that's in the real world, or at least I'm pretty sure she is, suggested to me the other day when I was struggling a little bit with something. She said, just say decide for me. It really is that simple. But you have to say it now. And you have to say it with conviction. And you have to You have to say that it's the only thing I want. So what I did was, and I've been doing it for a few months now, I'm looking at whether or not it's the only thing I want. I haven't had one time in the multitudinous times that I've done this when I said, yeah, it is the only thing I want. But man, I came pretty close a few times. And according to what Wapnick said and what we just read, if I hit the real world, I'm only here for an instant. That's pretty scary
Yeah,
because I lose all this wonderment here in the world. Thing is, I also lose all this pain and suffering and terror and ugly that seems to be all around us every day until we get to that point where we are in the real world, and then we get to go and to get to what Chris was thinking about. Well, we have no idea what's going to happen with that, but I'm of the opinion that if we hit the real world, we don't have to come back. And what's the deal with that anyway? There's nowhere to go. We never left in the first place. Uh, Coming back is totally irrelevant. He talks about that in Is Reincarnation So? Yeah, if it is, so be it. If it isn't, so be it. I really like the way he does those kind of things too. Thank you for listening. It's helpful for me to talk about it.
thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I mean, we never left the real world, so it's already, you know, the the kettle's on the stove and it's simmering and our favorite chair is waiting there for us to return to it or whatever metaphors we like, right? Yeah. Now we got four people what to comment, and that's a good great stirring up the interest in what we're talking about. Okay, Maya, and then Marissa, and then Myra, and then Chris.
Yeah, and this is for Stephen and anybody who's uh, thinking about fearfully about losing their dream figure ness, their sense of ego self. I cling to what Ken has said so many times, and that is that when I'm truly ready to return to God, Stephen, I'm going to be in such a state of peace that I'll be ready for poof. And it's not going to be a violent event. You know, God is not going to grab me by the neck or by my hair, how short it is, and say, to heaven with you. So I'll be going peace before I go poof. And if I've gone completely peace, I'm going to welcome it. Thanks.
Excuse me, but we all do that. Everyone in the world does that. That's what a holy instant is. That's the practicing for being in the whole world, in the real world. Or, yeah, I think maybe the whole world would be it too. But that's something that we all know. We all have holy instants.
Yes,
We
but
all have miracles, and we know what that looks like. We just can't hang on because it's not the only thing that we want, and we go back and forth, and we go back and
absolutely.
forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is, that's unshakable peace. That's an echo of unshakable peace, but it's not unshakable peace. That's an instant. You know, it's going to be permanent. Permanent.
Sometimes they last.
Then go
Sometimes they
poof.
last a whole day, but they just don't last
No,
longer than
that's
that.
still an instant. Yeah, it's not enough. Anyway, thanks.
Thanks, Maya. Marissa?
Oh, I was just going to mention because Stephen was saying about how, which is rightly so, to notice that the wonderfulness of the world, how we don't want to leave here, but beneath that, in the secret dream, the more brutal and the punishment in the world, the better the ego likes it. This is in the manual for teachers, what is death section. The more brutal the punishment, the better the ego likes it. So the world events that are going on that we seemingly are appalled by scratch below the surface of that. And that's what keeps us here, makes it real, makes our physical, that there is a physical life, if there's something so punishing. So it kind of reinforces the ego thought system. And with the regard to the real world, I think when we make a big deal about anything, it's making the error real. You know, we put it on a pedestal or idolize it or talk about it, how it feels to be there. We're kind of in the ego that, again, possibly just depends, but it could be a possibility that we're making that error real again. That if I'm there, then there was an opposite. I wasn't there. And so you just have to watch how squirrely the ego is. Thanks. And I'm not talking to you, Steve. I'm talking about all of us,
Thank you, Marisa.
And Marisa, I knew that was coming. You're welcome.
Steve.
Welcome.
Oh, I thought I was on mute. Oh, God.
Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Myra.
Yeah, I wanted to react to the instant that Stephen was talking about. Many times Jesus asks the question, how long is an instant? Well, we don't know. If I remember correctly, when Ken is describing and defining the metaphysics, and he talks about the tiny mad instant, he said once, I believe, that this whole dream of ours, everything here, is all taking place in that one instant. So my instant right now has been going on for 77 years. So I don't know how long your instant is. So how long is an instant? Very good question. And actually, there's no answer to that question. But just something that Chris said earlier about the ending. Somewhere in this beautiful book, Jesus guarantees a happy ending. It's written black and white in the book. Guarantee. Stamped on. Guarantee. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
That's the happy inevitability that we can be relax knowing that the outcome is certain, isn't it? I mean, we know that the holy instants that we seem to be fleeting and initially far and few between. What's the way around? will become the constant awareness, the constant experience at some point when we're ready, when we want that above all else. When we answer yes to the last unanswered question that Stephen was alluding to as well. Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, just to be clear, Marissa and Stephen, I was clapping and laughing at your inside joke, how you guys have secret names for each other or your own pronunciations. So that is funny. Also, with this discussion, Ken says it a lot, I'm sure Jesus says it more, that when you don't keep your undivided attention on God, not to be guilty about it, because that just makes it real again. So that can apply to not just my question of where am I going when I'm done when this body's used up, but for addictions, for anything, don't feel guilty about it. Just look at it. Just look at it. And with Jesus, obviously, don't look at it as an ego, or you just make it worse. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. When you mentioned addictions, I was thinking, well, we're asking the course to just look, but on the level of form, if you're addicted to drunk driving, you might want to do something behaviorally too, but needless to say, but obviously the course emphasizes and really is all about the mind. Yeah, Myra?
Yeah, just tag on to what Chris was just saying, because one of my favorite mottos is at the end of the Happy Learners section when he says, never feel guilty because you're learning. Don't hit yourself over the head with the book because we're learning. It's okay. We're students. We're learning. We're following A Course in Miracles. It's okay.
It really is, really is. And thank you, Myra. And in addition to remember that we're learning, we get all the help we need, I think, if we're looking for it in the course. So I thought we could shift to in the text, chapter 4, section 2. We're not going to have time to go through the whole thing, which I would highly recommend, because when I went through this the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I know, there's just so much in there. But maybe we could just see how far we get. And let's see. Daniela, would you like to read paragraph 1 of The Ego and False Autonomy, which
Sure.
is on page 56 in the text, chapter 4, section 2?
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
paragraph 1, you said yes?
Yes, please.
Okay. It is reasonable to ask, it is reasonable to ask how the mind could ever have made the ego. In fact, it is the best question you can ask. There is, however, no point in giving an answer in terms of the past, because the past does not matter, and history would not exist if the same errors were not being repeated in the present.
What a hint, huh?
He gives it to us right there.
Yeah.
But do we see it is the question.
Yeah.
Abstract thought applies to knowledge because knowledge is completely impersonal and examples are irrelevant to its understanding. Perception, however, is always specific and therefore quite concrete.
Any thoughts on that?
So I guess more questions. So in sentence 4, abstract thought applies to knowledge, which is the all, because knowledge, that's all, like the sonship, us.
It
Because
would be the Christ mind, the
right,
God mind, the capital S spirit, right?
whatever term
Yeah, pure non-duality, all that stuff above the line in Ken's chart, the truth,
applies
capital
to
T.
knowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
And knowledge is completely impersonal, and we make it personal as an ego. It's mine, my identity, mine, my.
And we fundamentally change the nature once we try to make it personal and bring it into the dream. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then examples are irrelevant to its understanding. So that, okay, we'll let that be. And then perception, however, is always specific. That's the ego. Perception is specific. It wants. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could get some help there, and therefore quite concrete.
Well, the ego's perception is always that differences are important and real, and the Holy Spirit's true perception is that I can take those specifics and use them for forgiveness rather than to destroy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the correction. It's still perception, but it's a corrected perception that basically says I can take all my special love-hate relationships and transform them with Holy Spirit's help to something that will lead me out of the dream rather than deeper into it.
To therefore reverse
Yeah.
the projections.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the only person who hasn't read today is Sakina. And you're off camera. I'm just wondering if you'd like to read today. Are you there, Sakina?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, all good. Thanks for being with us anyway, regardless. Yeah. Thanks, Sakina. Okay, I'm going to loop back around then to Chris. Would you like to read paragraph 2?
Yes.
Thanks.
The ego and false autonomy. Everyone makes an ego or a self for himself. Everyone makes an ego or a self for himself, which is subject to enormous variation because of its instability. He also makes an ego for everyone else he perceives, which is equally variable. Their interaction is a process that alters both, because they were not made by or with the unalterable God. It is important to realize that this alteration can and does occur as readily when the interaction takes place in the mind as when it involves physical proximity. So if I'm just thinking about you, Bruce, or if we're going out to lunch together, there you go. Thinking about another ego is as effective in changing relative perception as is physical interaction. Thinking about another ego is as effective in changing relative perception as is physical interaction. There could be no better example that the ego is only an idea and not a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just describing what goes on as an ego, as someone feeling separated and apart from God.
Yeah.
That's how I'm interpreting that paragraph.
Yeah, and interpretations are a key part of that variability and alterability, aren't they? Because in one moment we can say, "Well, I think you're doing this to me, and I like this," and the other minute I think, "Well, you're doing something else to me, and I don't like that." So, but then you might shift when we're so fickle, and we might say, "Well, I liked that before, but I don't like it now." And vice versa. So everything's a moving target to the ego. We made ourselves as this paragraph that you just read describes. We made ourselves as a moving target, and then we made everyone else. Just 8.2 billion or whatever it is, humans alone on this planet as moving targets. No wonder it's a hopeless game of trying to sort everything out. I mean, and that's all going on in our mind. And it says there could be no better example that the ego is only an idea, not a fact. We've got all these competing interpretations warring in our mind for how to make this dream figure happy.
I think the trick
That's a
for me
pretty
too.
crazy game,
Yeah.
Try to program an arcade machine for that, Yeah. What were you going to say, Chris?
I was going to say, with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, I think for me, it's so plain to see just watching the news. The tricky part is I've always looked at it. Seems like most of my life I've always thought America was a wonderful place to be and all that. And until all this chaos has happened, I really had very little awareness of the fact that different countries, cultures, all that have different way of looking at things. And it's just like coming out of a myopic way of interpreting what's going on in the world collectively. And it's also encouraging me to look what's going on in my little noggin up here in my own right. Yeah. So, and everybody's responsible for themselves, Yeah. And I just have to learn. I got to step out of thinking it's just my way or the highway kind of thing.
We're all working on that together, huh? I mean, we've
Yeah.
all got the same myopia that we're dealing with.
Well, it's very tempting to look at it out there, all the bad guys out there, instead of realizing how I'm looking at things.
The blame thrower takes the focus off my own perceived sin, guilt, fear, and projects it, and almost without skipping a beat. Occasionally, there's a little beat that gets through the perceptual filter of ego's interpretation that says, "Whoops, wait a minute, maybe I'm complicit in this war. Who put this sword in my hand? How did that get there?
Well,
I
I
thought I
think
dropped that a
Marissa's,
while ago."
there's still things we can change in the world. Marissa was saying, this is all true, but if you're driving around drunk all the time, you might want to. I think it was Marissa that said it. You might want to stop doing that because it's dangerous, and it's the same thing with anything else that's going on in the world that people are doing. You might want to consider stop doing that, and take a look at yourself.
See, now my perception is that I said it, but then
You did say it.
I could be wrong too. I could be wrong too.
Yeah.
But does it really matter ultimately? Because if we're all one, we all said it. Right?
Wherever I heard it. Yeah.
Marissa, thanks.
I was just going to add to what Chris was saying. It's all good that
Yeah.
what you're reminding us of, because we
Mhm.
all really have that myopia. But it's all the same, isn't it? It's all perpetuating this mindlessness. It's
Mhm.
that's its use, whether we're myopic or we think we have a worldly view, it's all perpetuating the dream. It has the same purpose. So in that way, for me, that helps me because it really it's not so convoluted and we don't have to analyze the ego thought system so much. We just have to know, look what comes up. Look at the darkness, look what comes up with Jesus, because that's what's holding us here. So yeah, whether it's pleasure or pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Steve has something.
Thank you, Marisa.
Go ahead, Stephen.
If you were oh, okay, there you go. This paragraph seems to imply that there are two egos, uh, and most of the time, I think most of us think that there are billions of egos, uh, but in truth, there's only one ego. And so, when Joseph Stalin, they say he killed 12 million people. 6 million. Once you get to that, 12 million. And there was a guy in China who killed like 9 million many centuries ago. Uh, but but when that kind of thing is happening, and also even if it's a minor irritation that you're causing, that you're causing, it's the same thing. That one ego knows it, just as Son of God knows it when we are on our way to the real world. Uh, so when we talk about these kind of things, I always think to myself, ego is just a puppet. Wapti talks about that in the Tyranny of Needs, I think the name of the CD is,
Right.
where he says that Son of God is the puppeteer.
Mhm.
Son of God, that's us. That's us in the wrong mind. And it's only one of us, of course, but well, we have to keep I have to keep looking at that because it doesn't seem to fit in with everything else that I'm learning that seems to be helpful for me in going to the next rung of the ladder, or however you want to do that. When we talk about vertical and horizontal, I know that's helpful and everything, but there's no vertical and horizontal. The course says always has no direction. What the heck could that possibly mean? But anyway, this thing about ego, we all know what's going on all the time with all of us who seem to be human beings that are actually one mind in the split part of the mind hallucinating. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Yeah. I was thinking that pardon the pun, that regardless of whether it's mass genocide or just a minor irritation of a trivial annoyance, we're all stalling for time. So that's something we can forgive ourselves for, right? Marissa.
Yeah, I was just uh, going to comment on the same that Stephen was. Paragraph, or rather, sentence 5, thinking about another ego is as effective in changing relative perception as is physical interaction. And that reminds me of the series Pluribus, where she has, every time she has a tantrum, she hurts other people unbeknownst to her, which is quite interesting. Yeah. I don't know if you all have seen that, but it's pretty good. Thank you.
Okay. Enough spoiler alerts, but it's definitely an interesting series. Yeah, thank you, Marissa. Let's see. Vicky, would you like to read the third paragraph? And I know we're going over the 75-minute mark, so if anybody needs to leave, let me know and we'll speed it up. But it doesn't look like there's anyone that has to drop off at the moment.
No,
So,
and
so, so we'll go a little farther. Yeah.
as long as I've been in the Saturday class, I always allow for an hour and a half, so we're good.
Okay, good.
All right, paragraph 3. Your own state of mind is a good example of how the ego was made. When you threw knowledge away, it is as if you never had it. This is so apparent that one need only recognize it to see that it does happen. If this occurs in the present, why is it surprising that it occurred in the past? Surprise is a reasonable response to the unfamiliar, though hardly to something that occurs with such persistence. But do not forget that the mind need not work that way, even though it does work that way now. Yep, we think we know stuff because we count on the past to have taught us something valuable. And so I had that experience. I had an eye treatment on Thursday, and I kept remembering the past eye treatments and the suffering that happens after the treatment. And I thought, on this particular Thursday, I thought, why am I doing that? I don't have to react that same way this time. And it was a lighter experience to not pull in memories of the past for something I'm doing right now. So, and the course talks about how the past is a really well, it's distracting and it brings up emotions, and the body reacts to something we did or thought or experienced in the past, and it has nothing to do with the way that the mind can really work efficiently, utilizing forgiveness and letting go of um, things we believed that the body did yesterday. Um, and that, the wrong mind depends on the past. And so, that ego just loves to say all kinds of good stuff about the past. That's all he knows about. He has no idea what the present moment is. So he's got all kinds of stories to whip us into shape when we get down and dirty in the wrong mind. Anyway, that's what I have to say about that paragraph.
Thank you. Yeah, very helpful. And your example is a good one too. It's like, well, and not just medical, biological stuff, but anything that you've got a past association with, you just say, wait a minute, just because I've done this before doesn't mean I have to do that again. And then the doing again is really choosing the wrong thought system again. The self-condemning thought system. Wednesday evening, I was doing a little session on worthiness, and I was thinking, well, that there's that line that's I probably could find it quick enough, but it's the one that says, that about consistent efforts. If I can find it real quick, it's because the only reason that we don't apply consistent effort is we don't think we're worthy. If I can find it real quick. Here it is. Yeah. It says the habit of engaging with God and his creations is easily made if you actively refuse to let your mind slip away. The problem is not one of concentration. It is the belief that no one, including yourself, is worth consistent effort. Well, that's the alleged other egos, which, like Stephen was pointing out, there's only one ego appearing as many. But once we think we've split apart that perfect oneness, we're mesmerized by egos, you know, constant erasure. It's kind of like as you're reading that paragraph, Vic, I was thinking of the Men in Black, the little shirt pocket pen thing that they called the neuralizer. They take that out when someone sees a bunch of extraterrestrials. They don't want people to go reporting that to the press and having it in their memory, so they just bring out this little thing that just little flash of light comes out of this pen, and it erases all their memories of seeing the extraterrestrials doing whatever they're doing. But that's the ego's neuralizer. It's like we constantly get the memories of our sanity erased by wanting to believe in the ego. But it's a conscious decision to want to believe in the ego, and we're repeating that over and over again until it just becomes such a habit. We forget I'm neuralizing, and we don't even notice it. We've become inured to it or normalized. normalize to the neuralize. Anyway.
Well, and I was thinking too, when you first started talking after my comment, we go back to the past of something we did. And I was realizing, no, I'm dreaming.
Yeah.
I'm dreaming that dream again. I'm
Yes,
bringing
yes.
that forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And that it's a dream, and it doesn't have anything to do with definitely the now of the eternal
Yeah.
and the holy instant where we're free.
Yeah.
We're not bodies. And so it's more like bringing up a past memory is bringing up the dream again that we think happened back there or seemed to happen.
And we just keep dragging it out of the trash and trying to recycle it over and over again. Yeah.
I'll tell you, my next husband, he's going to be a dreamboat.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that one alone. Marissa.
I was just going to quickly say to what Vicky was saying about not taking the past. When we're in the holy instant, we can't take the past with us because there is no separation in that moment,
Yeah.
how long it lasts.
Yeah. And that's what we need Holy Spirit's help to disconnect the past from the future by erasing the guilt in the present. And then instead of having the past contaminate the future with the guilt, we basically forgive the past for what didn't happen, and then we free up the future to be what it really could be, which is peaceful. Yeah. Thanks. Well, we're almost exactly at the top of the hour, so I wanted to conclude with a short
I think we
reading.
should go rogue and go for like 2
3
hours.
hours.
Just turn the recording off. I have to go, but Bruce, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you
Okay.
all. This
Okay.
has been an extraordinary class for me.
I just have a very short reading if you want to wait 15 seconds.
Oh, sure. I thought you were going to go rogue.
No, oh, no. No. I was just going to read, this is from chapter 1, section 3, paragraph 5, and it's the 3 italicized lines, sentences 4, 5, and 6, and use that as a closing meditation. Anyway, I also encourage everyone to read the rest of that Ego and False Autonomy. There's some great stuff in there we didn't get to, but I think you get the idea. There's some really good ways to apply what we learned in that main section today and put it into practice. So anyway, here's something I think will remind us that our real identity is spirit. Okay, and this is we'll do this as a closing meditation. Spirit is in a state of grace forever. Your reality is only spirit. Therefore, you are in a state of grace forever. All righty. Thank you all. And you can ask Holy Spirit to do the reverse neuralizer on your mind throughout the day. And I look forward to the next session. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Great job.
Bruce.
Thank you,
Wow.
everyone.
Everybody
Thank
else.
you, everyone.
Very powerful.
Everybody.
Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye bye.
I can't.